Hello friends. Today I am going to explain an action/thriller movie called Last Passenger. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie opens inside a local train which is headed from London to Tunbridge. Hundreds of passengers are seen on board, and among them is our protagonist, Shaler. A doctor by profession, he is currently heading home with his little son, Max. It is revealed that Shaler's wife passed away years ago, so he takes his son wherever he goes. Later, when he leaves his seat to answer a call, Max is approached by a fellow passenger named Sarah. Her seat is right next to theirs, so she tries to have a small chat with the boy. But Max, being the clumsy kid that he is, accidentally knocks over her takeaway coffee cup. This causes Sarah's coat to be drenched in coffee, and Shaler immediately arrives at the scene. He scolds his son and apologizes to Sarah for the inconvenience. He even offers to pay for the damages, but she politely refuses, saying it's all right. The two then engage in conversation and chat about various topics. When Sarah gets to know that Shaler is a doctor, she is genuinely impressed. She continues smiling at him and even plays with his kid. It is evident that she has fallen for him at first sight. After a while, Sarah gets busy on her phone while Shaler starts reading a newspaper. Max, as usual, plays with his toy dinosaur and snoops around the place. When he turns back, he notices a rowdy-looking passenger named January. The guy shows him a magic trick using a cigarette, but then scares him off with a horrid expression. Shortly after, the train conductor shows up to check the tickets. Jan is casually smoking a cigarette inside the compartment, so he is ordered to put it away. But he refuses and starts causing a scene. This angers some fellow passengers, and an old man named Peter even confronts him. Jan, who is clearly drunk, tries to intimidate the man by displaying some lame kung fu moves. But when Peter doesn't budge, he reluctantly puts away his cigarette and heads to the corridor section. The scene then cuts to an hour later and we see that only a few passengers are remaining on the train. Shaler's attention is caught by a peculiar-looking man, who is carrying a motorcycle helmet. When the train stops at a station, he seemingly gets out. But then he returns, drinks a can of beer, and heads inside another compartment. Shaler stares at the man for a while but doesn't think much of it. Meanwhile, the conductor has finished checking all the tickets and is returning to his room. But as soon as he reaches there, he's pulled inside by a mysterious figure. On the other hand, Max has finally fallen asleep and this has given Sarah the chance to talk with Shaler. She wastes no time and starts flirting with him, even making it clear that she's single. The naive doctor hesitates to come up with responses, as he is pretty nervous. But Sarah explains that he must buy her a new coat, as this one has been spoiled by his son. She then writes down her number on a piece of paper and hands it to him. Shaler happily accepts it and smiles back at her, implying that he's into Sarah. Some more stations later, the train is almost empty except for a handful of passengers. Shaler gets up from a short nap and realizes that the train is stationary. He hears a hissing sound coming from outside, followed by an unknown guy running away. Then, a loud bang is heard and the train begins moving again. Shaler goes near the window and tries to see what's going on. To his utter shock, he witnesses an injured man crawling through the tracks. Shaler immediately goes to the conductor's room to report the matter. Being a doctor himself, he cannot bear to see others in pain. But even after knocking on the door several times, the conductor doesn't respond. Hearing the commotion, a gentleman emerges from the VIP section and he's none other than Peter. He warns Shaler not to knock on that door as it could lead to serious penalties. The latter explains that they need to urgently help an injured man who's crawling on the tracks, but Peter doesn't think they can help. He simply goes back to his room and closes the door shut. A while later, the train finally reaches Tunbridge. Sarah and Shaler prepare to get down. As they say their goodbyes, she reminds him to call her and then gives him a kiss. Shaler is left speechless by the kiss, but he becomes even more shocked when the train doesn't stop at Tunbridge. It keeps going at a normal pace, without even slowing down. Worried that something's wrong, Shaler proceeds to investigate while Sarah and Max join an elderly lady named Elaine. In the next scene, Shaler reaches outside the driver's room which is barricaded by a metal door. Since he can't get in, he buzzes the intercom and says he needs to go home urgently. For the first few seconds, no one responds, but then a man asks how many passengers are remaining. Shaler is stunned by the response as was hoping the driver would ask about his emergency. But nonetheless, he counts the remaining passengers and replies that there are 6 of them. As soon as the driver hears this, he shuts the intercom and increases the train speed. Shaler tries contacting him repeatedly, but to no avail. Following this, he heads to the conductor's room for answers. This time, he gets into an adjacent room where he finds the door open. He also discovers the conductor's equipment and other stuff on the floor. This makes Shaler really worried as he realizes that something's off. Soon after, Peter shows up and asks about the matter. Shaler tells him that the train hasn't stopped and it's instead moving at a faster pace. At first, Peter doesn't believe him and simply asks him to go back to his seat. But when the train doesn't stop at his station as well, he begins panicking. The two men then begin pulling all the emergency brakes one after another. But none of them are able to slow down the train by even a bit. Shaler then checks the train statistics and shockingly discovers that the brakes have no air pressure in them. This is why the emergency brakes are not working at the moment. Soon, the punk from earlier, Jan, also joins them. He asks what's going on, and Shaler explains that about an hour ago, when the train was stationary, he heard a hissing sound, followed by a man running away. Peter, who knows a lot about mechanics, quickly realizes that someone released the air to disable the brakes. This sets everyone in panic and they start thinking of ways to stop the train. Shaler knows that every train has two control rooms, one at the front and the other at the back. Since the front one is occupied by the mysterious driver, they go to the other one. The door is fortunately open and they immediately start looking for a possible solution. At this moment, Peter once again shows up and tries to stop them. He says that he has already contacted the police, so they should just wait rather than playing with these dangerous controls. He hopes that the cops will cut the power to this train, which will allow them to slowly come to a halt. However, Shaler reveals that this is a diesel train, so there is no way someone from outside can stop it. This only means one thing: their fate is in their own hands now. The entire group then continues looking until they find a handbrake. Normally, these brakes are used when a train is stationary, so that it doesn't roll over. But since they don't have any other options, they decide to pull it. Shaler and Jan take the initiative and pull the lever with all their might. The plan initially works and the train starts slowing down. But then the driver catches wind of this and increases the speed, thwarting their efforts. Later, as the group is trying to find other solutions, the train strikes a car at a level crossing, killing all its occupants instantly. This scares the old woman, Elaine, so much that she goes into a cardiac arrest. Shaler quickly springs into action and starts performing chest compressions. He also tries various other ways to bring her back, but to no avail. The poor woman passes away on the spot, leaving everyone heartbroken. But the group has no time to mourn as they have to stop the train ASAP. Jan proposes that they break open the control room's door, to which Shaler agrees. The two men then grab weapons and start pounding at the thick door. Fortunately, Shaler manages to shatter the glass, and he gets inside through it. As soon as he reaches the other side, he is left in complete shock. He finds the conductor's dead body, confirming his suspicion that the train has been jacked. Now, the only thing separating him from the driver is another metal door. Shaler uses a blunt object and pounds at it repeatedly, but the door is too strong to be broken. And to make matters worse, the driver sounds a blaring horn, forcing everyone to retreat back to their compartment. As they plan their next move, Peter reveals that some decades ago, a similar incident took place. Someone jacked a train and drove it against a wall, killing many passengers. He fears that the mysterious driver is planning to do something like that again. The group then theorizes that at this speed, they will reach the last station in about 30 minutes. This means they have to act quickly or all of them will die. With time running out, Jan proposes that he will head outside and uncouple the carriages. It is a dangerous mission, as any mistake at this speed could lead to death. But it is their only chance, so he is willing to try. The rest of the group then wishes him good luck and Shaler opens the door. Jan slowly goes outside in the cold weather and gets to work. But due to the slippery surface, he slips, causing him to hang on for dear life. Fortunately, before he can fall to his death, Shaler grabs his hand and somehow pulls him back. Now, the group has roughly 10 minutes before the train reaches its final station. Shaler is willing to risk it all, so he comes up with a daring idea. He plans to use a fire extinguisher to blow up the floor panels, which will allow them to uncouple the carriages from inside. After piling up the supplies, Shaler instructs Sarah and Max to go to the other side, as it will be safer there. He then lights up the improvised bomb, and it soon explodes. The plan luckily works and the floor panels are destroyed. Shaler wastes no time and tries to uncouple the carriages manually, but the surface is too hot due to the fire. At this intense moment, Peter arrives at the scene with a lever. Shaler then goes to the other side, and the two men use all of their strength to unscrew the bolt. They eventually manage to do it, and the carriages separate, but Peter loses his footing and falls to his death. Witnessing this, Shaler is devastated, but he's in a tough spot himself as the fire prevents him from getting to the other side. With the carriages slowly drifting apart, he instructs Jan to pull the handbrake. The latter obliges and he immediately rushes to the control room where Max and Sarah are present. The adults then pull the handbrake with all their might, and the train finally comes to a stop. On the other hand, Shaler is still not out of danger, as his carriage is being engulfed by flames. He becomes even more worried when he realizes that he's covered in kerosene. This means that it's only a matter of seconds before he catches fire. Hence, with no options left, Shaler prays to God and leaps out of the moving compartment. In the final scene, we see the entire group by Shaler's side on the tracks. He is badly injured, but he's going to make it. The movie ends as the cops finally arrive to help.